maneco64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So a very eventful week. Stock market having a very tough time. We have rebounded a little bit today, and I want to cover the last half hour of the markets here. Billy is here with us tonight. And I'll take questions. I'll talk about things that I think are important and what's going on and what I foresee, for the coming week. Hi, everyone. Billy's here, yeah. He's been a little bit absent on the videos usually because he's been sleeping in a little, so don't want to wake him up. So right now I've got my phone here. And I'm checking the market. So the Dow has actually rallied quite a bit in the last half hour, and we're up 200. So the Dow has actually rallied quite a bit in the last half hour, and we're up 249 points or 1%. S&P is up 1.3. But still, if you look at the charts, one thing that concerns me about the markets is the technical picture. I've spoken the last month or so about how the Dow had broken out from its, how can I say, end of January high at 26,600. I did ask whether that was a false breakout at first, and then it corrected and went back up to make a new high, but then it's completely failed now. So. And the same thing has happened to the Nasdaq and S&P, even though they had made new highs compared to the beginning of the year earlier than the Dow, and they've rallied quite a bit from the highs beginning of the year. They've completely failed as well, and the Dow Transports, which is something people don't look too much at, that's completely failed, and that doesn't look very good at all. So let's see who's here. So we've got Tesla 3, Tony. Hi, Tony. IK. He's always around. IK. Good to see you. Carl McDonald. Silver Granny's here. Chris Varga. Brian 91145. Hi, Igesso. Nice to see everyone showing up. Jonas Grondal from Norway. Hi, Jonas. Haven't seen you around. Maybe. Yeah, new subscriber maybe, or new to the live stream. Daryl Lowry. Hi, Daryl. Yeah, I've been watching, the market most of the day on and off. And one thing I can say is that, it doesn't feel this feels just like maybe like people call a little bit of a dead cat bounce, I would say. Earlier today, we got down to negative in the Dow. Prior to the open on New York today, the futures overnight, they were up about 500 points. So now we're only up 240, even though we have rallied. So we've got 32 minutes to go to the close. And I wouldn't be surprised. We could go either way. We could be up 500 points by the close, or we could be even down on the close. That's how I think sensitive the markets are and not in great shape. So we got more people coming here. Daryl, Prof. Grampy is here. Dirty Dough, wash, rinse, collect, repeat. A 2-month correction is not a crash. No, I mean, I think we had a correction in the beginning of the year. One thing that doesn't look good, if I was a trader or an investor, or especially a trader, I probably would have bought stocks on the breakout of the Dow because it would have confirmed the S&P and the Nasdaq. But the turnaround has been so sharp, and the charts, especially for the Dow Industrials and the Dow Transports, looks like a massive double top. And it's not like the tops are not close to each other. They're like months apart. So it doesn't look good at all, in my opinion. I think today is just maybe a little bit of a rebound. I think the powers that be, right after the close yesterday, they came in and goosed the market up, and they're trying to keep it from falling, I think, on a Friday before the weekend, because people always, we could see, you know, a rush to sell here on the close. And that's how I named this video, Market on Close. I worked for many years, of course, in the markets as a futures and options broker. And clients used to give what's called market on close orders. They're usually, you know, you have to, they'll say, you know, I want to sell 100 shares of IBM market on close. And they call you in the beginning of the day. That means that you're supposed to sell it in the last 2 minutes of trading, and they give you discretion. So you know, what's bad is if you forget these orders. That's why you have to always, you know, working in the markets, you always have to keep track of everything, write the orders down, get alerts, because, you know, if you forget to execute the order, and then the market goes down, then the next day the client says, oh, I want to buy it back, and you haven't sold it. You know, that's the problem. So we got people coming up here now, more people. Rene, hi, Rene. Laura, hi, Laura. How high will rates go? Well, the short-term rates, Jonas, the Fed looks like they want to take it up to almost 3%. The longer term interest rates, you know, the 10-year yield, I think they could go, you know, they are fairly elevated. They're above 3 now. They could definitely go to maybe 3 3/4 by the end of the year. The short-term rates, that's going to take a while longer. And the Fed hasn't come out, in spite of this market correction we've seen, hasn't said anything. In the past, under Bernanke and Yellen, they would have sent a few guys out to try to calm the markets, and they haven't done that yet. So D says, whipsaw, total fake out. I stayed away because the plunge protection scene dropped the ball and didn't prevent the 100 and 200. Yeah. Hi, Kathleen. The markets knew about the rate hike for a while. Why all the fuss? Well, the fuss is more on the longer term rates, you know, the 10-year yields. The Fed doesn't control those. And I think the thing is, the economy is slowing down. The rest of the world is slowing down, emerging markets. And I think the rest of the market is a bit concerned that the Fed's just doing too much. I think a lot of people realize, you know, even though they come out officially saying the economy is doing really well, they don't really think the economy is strong enough for the Fed to keep raising rates. So that's why. The other thing that's probably hurting markets is all the trade, you know, tensions between the U.S. and China and other countries. It's starting to hurt technology stocks, you know, the FANG stocks as well. So right now, we're up 259 points in the Dow. Gold and silver are still doing well. I mean, gold is down on the day, but it's still, we've closed the week because, you know, the official close on COMEX was about 2 hours ago. We closed above, you know, the resistance we had since the middle of August. We're 1218 right now. We are down 6. But that's not surprising, seeing the Dow is doing so well. Silver is actually up on the day. It's at 1460. And the dollar is a bit stronger against the pound and the euro. But the dollar doesn't really look that great. I was looking at the dollar index chart. Warren Buffett tipping 8% now. His waiters usually go out 10% if they were lucky. Well, I usually give a 10% tip if I go to a restaurant with my wife for dinner or lunch. I think it's fair, 10%. Yeah, Italian bank index not doing well. So we're now up, still up 260. I have maybe some of you remember I told you last week I got a subscription to the Economist magazine. I haven't received the paper edition yet, but I can go online and read it. I'll get both. And I was reading some of the stories, and because there's a lot of talk about the 2000, the 1988 Economist cover, that we're going to have a new monetary, a new currency, global world currency in 2018. A lot of people were talking about the 10th of October on that medal on the Phoenix. And that happened to be the day the Dow dropped 832 points. But I can tell, from reading The Economist, it doesn't seem, I would think it would be interesting to read it to see, if they're even talking about that cover from 30 years, but they're not. They seem to be oblivious to that. I read a few, stories. They've got, like this week, they've got what they call, a special report. Yeah, they call it a special report, and they talk about one of the reports. They talk about the next crisis could start a long way from New York. That's one of their reports. The other one is in the special reports, central bankers will fight the next recession with their backs against the wall. And then they also have something, not in the special report, but it's called the next recession. It says toxic politics and constrained central banks could make the next downturn hard to escape. So, the economists, even though they're not talking about a new global currency or anything, they seem to be concerned about what the central banks will do in the next crisis. They seem to be concerned that there could be a recession in the horizon. One interesting thing they talk about is how emerging markets, they've grown a lot. For example, let's see here. Where are I? Yeah, for example, they show how back in the up until the mid 90s, emerging the advanced economies, U.S. and Europe, and developed world was 65% of the world economy. Emerging markets were 35, but now it's gone completely the other way. Emerging markets are about 59% of the world economy, and the advanced economies are 41%. So they do talk a lot about Turkey and other emerging markets that could hurt the world, and it could, the crisis they say could come from the emerging markets, which are bigger now than the rich economies, so to speak. So yeah, right now the Dow is down up 215, so it's come off a little bit, still quite high. So yeah, they talk about that. The other interesting thing, the hi, S. Walker, one of the moderators. Nice to see you here. Kathleen Smith. Rockefellers have a long history in China. It was David Rockefeller through Henry Kissinger that opened China. Yeah, the Rockefellers apparently. David Rockefeller was in charge of telling Nikita Khrushchev what to do in the Soviet Union as well. They apparently were behind the Chinese. Communist Chinese. The Rockefellers donated the land for the United Nations in Manhattan. Hi, Pablo. Nice to see you. So yeah, The Economist. They've got some this special report this week, mostly about markets, economy, and they seem to be concerned, especially for the central bankers and how they'll fight the next crisis. Excuse me. And but one thing about The Economist, they don't seem to come out and say maybe it's going to be a big crisis or a problem because of the monetary system, or because of the fact that we have central banks. They don't touch upon that, but it's still interesting to read all their stories. One thing they said that caught my attention is this, and I'll read it to you. And this is about the next recession. And they're talking about policymakers. And I now quote, it says, policymakers have other options, of course. Central banks could use the now familiar policy of QE, or quantitative easing, the purchase of securities with newly created central bank reserves. I like the way they put that, instead of just saying, the purchase of securities with money printed out of thin air. They could have put it like that. And they say the efficacy of QE is debated, but if that does not work, they could try more radical, untested approaches, such as giving money directly to individuals. Governments can boost spending too. Even countries with large debt burdens can benefit from fiscal stimulus during recessions. So that caught my attention, because they're actually saying that central banks and central bankers should consider doing what Ben Bernanke called helicopter money, printing money out of thin air to give directly to people. That they wouldn't have to borrow it into existence. I'm not, they would just print it and give it to you. I'm not sure if that's how they do it, or if they'd, because, if they borrow it and give it to you, it doesn't really help, because borrowing it into existence means that the government is going to have to issue more debt, which is on your back, and then give you the money. It doesn't make sense. But interesting that they're considering that. Mr. Nine, are we going to see a Black Monday? Well, I have watched a few of other YouTube videos. I do watch other people, of course. And a lot of people are calling for a Black Monday. I'm not sure if we're going to get a Black Monday. It could be a Black Tuesday or Black Thursday, Black Friday next week. At the moment, the markets seem to be, earlier in the day, before the open, the futures market were very strong. Overnight, the Dow futures was rallied 500 points. And then earlier today, about an hour or two ago, we were even in the red. And now in the last 45 minutes to an hour, we've been rallying, and the Dow right now is up 267 points, or 1%. It's at 25,300. The S&P is up 37, 1.38%. And the NASDAQ 100 futures back above 7,000, up 2.6%. Markets don't move down in a straight line, continuously, nor vice versa. They always kind of, rebound, correct. There's probably a bit of, short covering. People who were lucky enough to be short the market, they're buying back, closing their positions before the weekend. But we still have about 15 minutes to go. Things could change very quickly. The markets are moving, very quickly, this last week, because of all this uncertainty and volatility. Rick H., how many currencies are not part of our system? A couple. Why? Rick, I think all the currencies in the world, at least the national government currencies, are fiat. Of course, there are free market currencies like, cryptocurrencies, even gold and silver. They're currencies. They're not used in commerce, but they are stores of wealth. But all the national government currencies are fiat. They're all part of the fiat system, the dollar system. North Korea, Cuba, Iran are not Rothschild backed, but they do have central banks as well. So, they're just not playing the game. They're playing the game differently. If North Korea, Cuba, and Iran had, gold and silver as money and no central bank, then I would say they're not playing the Rothschild game. But deep down, they are. T. Hambone says it's because we're in a 100% managed socialist market. I agree. There haven't been real free markets since I would say 1934, when they started up the Exchange Stabilization Fund. But even then, we do have We do get corrections and crashes. You know, but it is all managed by the power, you know, the people in charge, the club. That's why my father always he never got involved in the stock market because he told me it was all, you know, a game. He preferred investing in, you know, property or real estate, not to, you know, just to maintain, you know, wealth. Not he wasn't a speculator. So he thought the stock market was you know, a game that was you know, not real, and that it was just for the insiders always won. And I think he was right. So right now we're up 300 in the Dow. So gold is 1218. So gold holding up well. Yeah, it's very possible that we could have a Black Monday, even if we finish up today. Who knows? A lot could happen over the weekend. People all also, you know, they'll have a couple of days to think about things, to look at the charts, you know, to look at their statements with their broker or whatever, and then they might decide, you know, I want to get out, and they'll get out on Monday. Don't blame the game, blame the player. Button, yeah, partly, but I think the markets are more for professionals and not the common person on the street. They've made people play the market, they've tempted them, but it's only a mechanism of really extracting wealth from the public, you know, playing the markets. That's the way I look at it. Um, but you know, if you do your homework, you need to almost make it full time. That's the only problem. So if you're a doctor or an engineer or whatever, it's very difficult, I think, because you know, you have to give it. You know, Jesse Livermore, he was a successful speculator. That was his business. So that's the only problem with markets. No, Cyan, the ESF does not dictate policy to the Fed. But I think they do work together. So they, you know, they collude, in my opinion. Zara Thruster, I was a professional financial planner. All edge markets are speculative. I will have gold, silver, and cash on hand. I agree, Zara. You know, I worked as a futures and options broker for financial institutions. I never really uh, advised or did business with private clients. But you know, if you go back 50, 100 years, the stock market was a game for very rich people. But now they've gotten the whole of the public, you know, the public to get involved in it because the money, you know, the fiat money is so bad that you know, if you leave it in the fiat money, it becomes worthless. You know, it halves in value every 40 years. You know, if you get 2% inflation. So yeah, that, you know, they've how can I say, they've given the public no choice but to speculate. So I agree with you on that. Illuminati Socrates. Governments need revenue streams to back their currencies. They should renationalize some materials. Wow. I don't think we need fiat currencies, Illuminati Socrates. And I think governments should be very small and limited. You know, anyway. Kathleen Smith Mary, did you see Rubini crypto testimony in front of Congress? No, I saw some headlines, but I didn't. One headline said that he's concerned that cryptocurrency is going to take over the bankers' business, and he's worried. So that's fine. I didn't listen to Rubini on cryptocurrencies. I think he's against cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure he understands the, you know, the decentralization it gives. Syria is the newest Russian state. Well, the Fed now has quite, yeah, I think it owns quite a bit of the, I think it owns about 25% of US debt, government debt. They could write it off, you know, they could, because the Fed, you know, bought those with money out of thin air. The Fed could very well write that debt off, and nothing would happen to them really. So we've got 10 minutes to the close. The Dow's up 325, S&P up 43. So yeah, it looks like you know, we're going to have a bit of a rebound, which is normal because, and of course it could be manipulated, but even you know, markets do rebound. You know, we lost about 1,400 points yesterday and the day before yesterday. So right now we're rebounding 300 points. So it's still been a bad week for stocks. I think the technical picture has been ruined, in my opinion, and you know, all all the, you know, momentum traders are probably out of the market. So gold and silver is up doing fairly well, 1462, up 6 cents. Gold is down on the day, but it's 1218. So we had a, you know, the low yesterday was 1191, and we're now at 1292. Hi, David. Nice to see you here. Uh, Harrison Hardcastle, a bit surprised at the move in gold yesterday, not such in silver. Thought silver was going to be explosive. Yeah, silver moved up 2% as well, just a little less than gold. And usually, if gold had, you know, silver should have been up double the percentage, but it didn't. And maybe it's because silver doesn't do so well when the general markets and other commodities are not doing too well. Maybe that's why. But silver today is actually held up well. It's outperformed gold today. Well, I've got silver at 1463. That's the spot price. Deceive No More says silver 1471. Not sure if that's the future. Omar Saleh, I watched an interesting video about how, because of technical advancements since 2008, the crash will be so much faster because of computers selling stocks if they fall below some point. Yeah, I mean, Goldman Sachs, for example, a quarter of their employees now are computer programmers. They've gotten rid of loads of traders because of regulatory, you know, regulations as well. Banks have a lot less traders. So yeah, it could be a huge move. I mean, 10% now drop would be 5,000 points. Can you imagine that? I think they would probably shut the markets if we got a 5,000 pound move, 5,000 point move. Okay, we've got 7 minutes. Yeah, it looks like we're going to finish up today. But again, that doesn't discount the fact that we could see a bad Monday next week. Or even, you know, I watched some other videos, some other people who follow markets. I've got a couple of people who think the stock market could stabilize a little bit, but really come off the cliff towards the end of the month. Who knows? But difficult to predict exactly, but things don't look good in my opinion. The thing about the markets, it's, you know, for the last 10 years, a lot of people, you know, have been calling for markets to crash, correct, financial collapse. And October usually is a big month. So yeah, it's very frustrating, you know, bull markets. They keep going for longer than most people expect. I remember in 2004 and 5, I had some clients who kept buying puts on the S&P, and they kept losing money, and then they gave up around 2006. But you know, they were just a couple of years too early. So are we there now in terms of the stock market correcting big time? Maybe. There's a, you know, I've got this book here. Technical Analysis Explained by Martin Pring. And this is one of the things he says about technical analysis. Remember, technical analysis is the art of identifying trend reversals based on the weight of evidence. So for me, the probabilities are that this is a major top here that we've seen, because you know, it was a breakout until a few weeks ago. The Dow was making all-time highs. The S&P had confirmed. The NASDAQ had confirmed. The transports had confirmed. But now all this has been negated in a big way, you know, especially this week with these huge drops. That's why I think, you know, am I saying it's going to happen? No, but the probabilities are big. There are people out there actually who are telling people to get rid of their stocks now, and because there's going to be a Black Monday. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to tell you what I think and be a little bit more level-headed. I mean, if you've listened to me and over the last few years, you know, I've been doing these videos for 2.5 years, really, or maybe a little more. You shouldn't be worried about, you know, a stock market crash or a collapse if you prepared yourself, even if you have stocks. But if you have the protection of physical gold and silver, some cryptocurrencies outside the system, you should be sleeping soundly at night. That's the way I look at it. So we got 4 minutes to go. Oh, thank you, Nick Russo, for the super chat donation. I appreciate that. Zem 2022, greeting from Qatar. Hey, nice to see you from Qatar. I think that's where the next football or soccer World Cup will be, in Qatar. So the Dow right now is up 358. So yeah, it looks, when we got 3 minutes to go. So, and gold's still holding 1218. The good technical move about gold this week is that we've broken we've had a range trading since the bottom that we saw in August at 1160, and the top of the range was right around 1212, 1215. So you know, we're at 1218. So it's a good close for gold for the week. Silver will probably catch up. So I'm just looking, instead of looking at on my screen, I'm looking on my phone. Dow up 336. So it looks like it's going to be an update for the stock market. And I think even if the markets don't continue going lower next week and they rally or stabilize, I don't think the markets are out of the woods yet. Yeah. Omar says the game is up. Even Rothschild is scared there will be a revolution in the U.S., especially given political division. How are the premiums in different countries of gold and silver? The premium is just set by the market. You know, it depends. You know, if there's a you know, if you call a dealer and someone that just sold them 1,000 sovereigns, you know, he won't charge you a very large premium because he wants to get rid of them. So it all depends on supply and demand of the physical coins, and it differs for different countries. So we've got here almost closing here, up 300. The Dow, S&P is going to be up about 40. So it's going to be an up day. Does that mean, you know, the this kind of correction we've had this week is over? No, nowhere near being over. So still up 291 right now, 285. So we're seeing a little bit of selling on the close. 280. S&P up 40. So 277. So yeah, there's actually a little bit of profit taking. We were up more than 350. 276. So yeah, the Dow finished up 276, and the S&P about 40. Are the markets out of the woods? No. What about the 10-year yield? Let's have a look at what that is doing. We are at 316. So, you know, the 10-year yield, we have come off the highs of 326, but we're still, that's the highest closing weekly yield since 2011. So that's a long time. That's very significant. Illuminati Socrates, commodities should be independent from services that government provide. It's too easy to manipulate. The other thing that happens with commodities, before they repealed Glass-Steagall, commercial banks could not deal in commodities, but now they can. That's the other thing. You know, that's how they also manipulate commodities, because the banks have taken over the commodities markets, the trading of commodities. Before Glass-Steagall was repealed, you had commodities brokers, and banks couldn't own commodities brokers. You had investment or merchant banks, which were not commercial banks. They could deal in commodities. But that's why I think it was a big mistake, to repeal Glass-Steagall. And who did that? Bill Clinton, right? So, hi, Mr. B. Nice to see you here. So what are we doing in the aftermarket? Well, the Dow's down 10 in the future. So how are coins free from capital gains? Maybe the face value. Well, in the UK, any coin of what you call coin of the realm that had, minted by the Royal Mint is capital gains free, tax free. So if you bought 100,000 pounds of sovereigns and the price doubled in a year and you sold them, you'd pay no capital gains on it, because a sovereign is considered legal tender, even though the nominal value is worth £1. So there is no capital gains tax on gold in the UK. I'm not sure where you are, Rick. Rick H. I think if you're in the US, I think capital gains do apply to gold, unfortunately, in the US. Bill Clinton's a Rockefeller. Well, I read that story that he's the son of was it Winthrop Rockefeller from West Virginia? It could be. You never know. Pablo Pina, what will happen to gold mine shares in Canada if Canada and other countries nationalize their mines? Well, yeah, your shares are going to be bought out by the by the Canadian government. I don't think, not sure that will happen. Not even during the Great Depression, mines were nationalized. So I don't think that will happen, but it's possible. Hopefully, if you do have Canadian mining shares and they are nationalized, the Canadian government will pay a decent price for it. Hi, Andrew. What do you know about the New York Stock Exchange and this Bitcoin ETF coming perhaps in November? I haven't heard of it. I haven't heard of this New York Stock Exchange ETF, to be honest. But I wouldn't trust it. ETFs are, a bankster instrument, so I wouldn't trust it. I'm working actually on a project. I've been asked to advise them. It's called multi-token. You can search that online, multi-token, and it's like a cryptocurrency based on ERC, on Ethereum, and anyone, even you, fund managers, exchanges, will be able to create on the blockchain. They're going to have a protocol where you can create ETFs, decentralized ETFs. So hopefully, that will put the New York Exchange ETF to, you know to the corner. So yeah, multi-token I think is the future for that, and you'll be able to even like copy the best uh, cryptocurrency fund managers and create your own ETF, decentralized on multi-token. Uh, it's an interesting project. Petro U1 timeline update. Well, the Petro U1, it started trading March 26, and it's growing and growing. And I think more and more countries are going to use that exchange, mainly because the United States is using the dollar and economic sanctions as a weapon. We've got Iran. The sanctions are coming into effect in November, and a lot of people are starting to trade their oil with the Chinese. So I don't know what you mean by timeline. It's just going to keep growing and become more and more important, the Petro U1. Yeah, I saw that, Mr. B, about the internet going black. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That I think I saw that on Zero Hedge, and to be honest, the quality of the material on Zero Hedge, I have to say, is getting worse and worse. So I'm not looking at Zero Hedge. So they've got stories there that they're. I have to say, Zero Hedge is. They must have lost some good people because not great. Oh, you're welcome, Andrew. So how are we doing the aftermarket? Not much. Very quiet. Markets are unchanged now after the close. So one of the things I was talking about earlier, about technical analysis, it's not a hard science, but it helps you give a probability to see if trends are changing. And I think the fact that we broke out in the Dow to new highs recently, we tried it twice and it failed, and we've made a huge drop after that. And the fact that for example, the Dow Jones Transportation Index, that as well made an all-time high in the middle of September, and it's dropped 10% since then. It was at 11,600, and we're now at 11,400. And why is the Dow Jones Transport important? Well, because if the economy is not doing, if the economy is, if the Dow Jones Transport Index is moving up, it means that people are confident about the economy. They're transporting things. But if that index is dumping like that, that's not a good sign. Yes, Kathleen. I just think the quality of their stuff is getting. It's like not as great as it used to be. But I agree with you. There are good stories there. T. So yeah, I'll take questions as well. If as usual, if you guys want to ask questions. Um, Hi, John. Nice to see you here. Forecasting anything next week? Uh, I will be contrarian next week, and I will say that the markets are probably going to stabilize a little bit and consolidate, and we're not going to see the continuation of the crash next week. that we saw Wednesday and Thursday, but that could be the week after. That's my forecast. That, could be wrong, but that's how I see it. News for all. Who's allowed to create money? Only the central bank in each country. And if they do, as always, a loan that we have to pay back. Yeah, actually, uh, the commercial banks are allowed to create money as well. They create it out of thin air, and they through fractional reserve. If you put £100 in the bank, they can lend 1,000. So central banks and commercial banks can create money out of nothing. I think the market should create money, and I don't think there should be fractional reserve because I think it's a fraud to lend something that you don't have. Um, I would believe in 100%, banking. And if you do, yeah, and some people might argue, well, but there won't be enough money to create credit, but there is because some people want to deposit their money in the bank and they do want you to lend it. They don't want you just to keep it there for safekeeping. And you can also always issue equity, which is different. Investment banks can issue equity to finance, projects. Just like in the cryptocurrencies, you can issue ICOs or airdrops. You create value from developing a project, but that won't be the currency. That will be equity. I had a look at the past Federal Reserve Chairman. They were all Zionists. I'm not sure how you can say they're all Zionists. Did it actually say they're Zionists? I mean, Paul Volcker. I think I'm not sure he was a Zionist. Uh, you know, I don't know what you mean by that. Uh, so I don't think we need to focus on the politics or the religion. I think we need to focus on the mechanism that is completely fraudulent. The fiat money system. That's why I never touch upon those things because it's no point. All it does is divide and conquer people. We need to expose the system. Yes, the Fed will raise rates in December. Uh, and they're going to raise rates 3 more times next year. Of course, if we do have a total meltdown in the next until by December, I think they won't. They could bring back, yeah, they'll probably be cutting rates. What book does expose the fiat money system best? If you Google "Secrets of the Federal Reserve" by Eustace Mullins, or "This Creature from Jekyll Island," those two are pretty good. Also, "What Has Government Done to Our Money" by Murray Rothbard. That's on the Mises website. So let's check the markets. Oh, so yeah, the markets are very quiet. The Dow futures is unchanged. So is the S&P future. Gold's still around 1218. I guess we can say that things are uh Jata Johnson, ignorant people who spew words like Zionists don't know what the hell they're saying should be blocked. Well, I agree, but in this case, I'll leave it unless the person comes back and keeps making the point. Peter, Oitzinger, very unconvincing European session today on balance. Yeah, I mean, Europe closes earlier. It closes, about 5 hours before the U.S. And back then, even I was looking at the U.S. The U.S. markets weren't convincing. The Dow was even Dow on the day earlier today, even though it finished up 275. So yeah, it wasn't a very convincing day. So yeah, we're not out of the woods yet. Mario, will you buy any more Bitcoin if the price drops? I have been, but I bought some this week, some cryptocurrencies. I bought some silver as well, and a little bit of physical gold to be, not much. So yeah, where are the cryptocurrencies right now? So right now, Bitcoin 6270. Ethereum 197, Ripple 4260, EOS 520. Yeah, it's been frustrating. Cryptocurrencies are going nowhere at the moment. They're moving less than the stock market in the US. So that just goes to show you. But I think it's probably the best time. The interest in cryptocurrencies under the surface is there. There's a lot of projects, I think. But the general public doesn't seem to be too involved in problems. That's probably a good sign. Stephen 1000, how can the futures market affect Bitcoin price? Well, because the futures on the CME is not deliverable. So all it is the bankers betting on the Bitcoin price. So if it gets to be a big market, it will become like a paper market, like gold and silver, and they can control the price if it becomes big enough. So the best thing for people who are into cryptocurrencies is to ignore the futures market and not get involved. But they want, the general public will probably get involved in the futures, and if the futures market and Bitcoin becomes big enough, they could be trading more Bitcoin than there ever was created in one day, and that's how they control the price. And how can they do that? You might ask. Well, because it's not deliverable. So if you buy a future and then you wait for the expiry of the future, the person who sold you doesn't have to deliver it. It's cash settled. So that's why it's a bad market for it's tempting to trade it, but I don't recommend people who are Bitcoin bugs, so to speak. Alabama ground cover solutions. If you were going to buy foreign currencies to hide from the dollar, which would you choose? Would you buy CDs in those currencies? Well, not really, because not CDs, just there aren't that many currencies right now worth buying. Swiss francs, you're getting, if you the CDs, you have to pay the borrower. The interest rates are negative. The euro rates are zero. I guess in British pounds also the rates are minimal. Uh, Maybe Chinese yuan, but that's difficult. I recommend still gold and silver. They're not foreign. They're not national currencies, but they don't pay interest. But I think they will do well. Kathleen, can you see all the Bitcoin on the ledger? They can't pretend to have something they don't. They do. No, of course they can, Kathleen. They can trade as many futures as they want on the CME, on the future, just like gold. Pablo, is there a Fed rate meltdown since rates are low? Can rates go negative? Dollar down, gold up? Well, the Federal Reserve, uh, they did not cut rates to, they cut it just above zero. Maybe next time when there is a crisis, they will make it cut it to negative. Who knows? Alabama, no, I don't think the Swiss franc is a good currency to hold, even though it has the reputation. I recommend you read the, monetarymetals.com. Keith Weiner is talking about how the Swiss franc could actually collapse. So I would stay away from any paper currency, dollar included. Badlands Organics. Mary, is there a reason you don't talk about Admiralty law, how it affects all beyond just monetary enslavement? Uh, I have read a lot about that we are, we are under Admiralty law and not the law of the land. Uh, yeah, but that's more illegal. I'm not really. It's not my specialty. My specialty is the markets and the money. But I agree with you. In the UK, in the US, we are not under natural law anymore. We shouldn't have a birth certificate. I agree. But that's a different subject. I'm focusing on what I know. I think that if we go back to sound money, that will follow, hopefully. But I am aware of that of the subject. Oh, you're welcome, Badlands. So I got one of these this week. This is 10-ounce kookaburra. Quite a nice coin, silver. No. Yeah, mash the like button and share this video with all your friends. And the other thing, I'm very much against the Fed and the Fed. So, in all of my videos in the description, there's a link to the maneco64 store. You can get mugs and the Fed mugs. You can get and the Fed T-shirts. You can get Billy mugs, Billy stickers and the Fed stickers, and it helps the channel because I'm doing this almost full time now, and it's growing. I'm almost up to 21,000 subscribers, and actually YouTube has not been censoring my videos anymore. Touch wood. So things are getting better, but it's nice to get some support. Got my Glint account up and running and made my first purchase. Ungo Deadly, great. Yeah, I think Glint. Some people ask about Glint and Gold Money, that they're the same. They're similar, but I have Gold Money as well, and I have to say the Glint app is much better than the Gold Money app. Much more practical. I've got my Glint card here as well, and I've got not that much gold. I've got a bit of gold here, and what I've done, I've even got some US dollars. You might say, oh, you shouldn't hold US dollars, but I think it's a good small hedge against the pound. So yeah, I've got my Glint card, and I think, yeah, they're going to be starting up in the US in November, and of course, I will tell you more about it when we get closer to the time. And also goldmoney.co.uk. I've got my promo code there, maneco64. You can get 0.5% discount. I mean, it's probably better for people in the UK to buy it from there. I have spoken to Atkinson's Bullion about getting a promo code with Paul Atkinson. I spoke to him yesterday. I know him quite well, and he said he's going to look into it. But I still recommend Atkinson's bullion.com in the UK, and I recommend goldmoney.co.uk, and I'm going to be endorsing Glint. Glint is going to be like digital gold, and I endorse them. I think they're for real. They are for real. They will hold the physical gold in Switzerland. In the US, they're gonna hold it elsewhere in the US, and they will also deliver. If you ask for redemption, they'll deliver it to you. And you can spend it anywhere in the world. That's the other thing. You'll be able to spend gold if you travel abroad. You can spend with your Glint card, which will be a MasterCard. T Hambone, I have a maneco64 and the Fed sticker on the back of my brand new Denali pickup. Great. Catherine, do you think the NSA could hack Bitcoin? It would have already. Need a quantum. Yeah, I've read about the quantum computers. I think it's a possibility in the future. And there are a lot of people who think cryptocurrencies were pushed onto the public by the powers that be. So who knows? Illuminati Socrates, gold may fall to $600 according to my source. Should the U.S. defend the U.S. dollar? So who's your source, Illuminati Socrates? It's not a Harry Dent, is it? Harry Dent. The thing about gold, yeah, it could fall to 600, but let's say if the Dow falls to 1,000, if there's a complete meltdown, uh, gold will still have outperformed, paper assets. Illuminati silver. Well, I don't really trust Illuminati silver because I don't know who they are. They don't show their face. They don't show who they are. So I don't trust them. So who are their sources? You know. Ryan Bennett from Dartford, UK, looking at gold in pounds, huge jump when Brexit voted. Whether Brexit is good or bad for the country, do you think next March will show a similar situation? Well, I think Brexit is a big distraction from what's really happening to the health of sterling and the economy. Uh, we've had, after the '08 crisis, the Bank of England, the governments, and I include, Labor and Conservative, they've thrown everything at the financial system, at the City of London. They created over £1 trillion in debt, and the only way to pay off that debt is to keep devaluing the currency. The move after Brexit, yeah, it triggered it, but the pound's still going to go lower. You know, and yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put. I would try to keep as little money in the bank in the UK or anywhere for that matter. Especially when you read in The Economist, which I was reading today, the new edition. They're actually talking about how maybe central banks will have to do print money and distribute it to people. Do you really want to have the paper money if they're going to start doing that? Not me. Yeah, Illuminati silver. I think they're like I did watch that channel about until a year ago, but as I said, I don't know what their story is. I don't like people who keep a mask and don't say who they are. Yeah, that's right, Richard. They talk like they are, the British accent and the stiff upper lip, even though you can't see them. But doesn't mean to say that they're not lying. Yeah, Rick, I think these levels, the gold price, mining companies are making very little money, and they're even, you know, uh, losing money. Jazz Atwell. Hi, Jazz. Yeah, I guess it was irony. It's difficult to detect irony when people are typing. The devil has an English accent. Yeah, Liz Hurley in that movie, wasn't it? I forgot the name of it. No, I'm not going to look up Illuminati Silver, Illuminati Socrates, because I'm not interested in that channel. Yeah, patience, crypto Sphinx from Italy. Hi, crypto Sphinx. So let's quickly have a look and see what we're doing uh, in the futures market. Now, it's weird. The the stock markets are they're doing nothing actually. I guess Friday night will be interesting. I guess next week. So I actually turn it off. Take it off. Yeah, Mario, thoughts on US dollar weakness on stock market sell off? Yeah, I think it's because if you look, for example, the FTSE right now is just around 7,000. And in the year 1999, 2000, in the dot-com bubble, the FTSE got up to 7,000. So 18 years later, we're still at the same level and the pound has gone down. And it's the same for a lot of different countries. So I think a lot of foreign investors have piled into the U.S. Markets because the dollar has been fairly strong, and the Dow, in 2000, the Dow was 11,000. Now it's 25,000. So I think if we see the stock market in the U.S. coming off, there's going to be a lot of foreigners trying to get out. So and that's why the dollar is, I think, goes down when the stock market goes down. Well, yeah, the price of gold is balances the balance sheet. Price of gold in dollars, it balances the balance sheet of the United States, all the debt that it has with foreign countries. I don't really think it matters about the U.S. population. It could be basic math, but it's irrelevant calculation, in my opinion. As Jim Sinclair, who I trust a lot more than Illuminati Silver, because Jim Sinclair has been around, online, and he shows himself. He talks to people. And he's been, in the gold market for half a century. He says that the only way to how, and it depends as well if the U.S. is going to balance its balance sheet, and how, if they go back on a gold standard, how much they're going to back the currency by. So I don't think it's got anything to do with the population, to be honest. No, I think the euro is safer than the Swiss franc. No, I don't think the Japanese, none of the fiat currencies are safe haven. None of them. You know, the only safe havens are, especially precious metals, especially gold. The fiat currencies are not safe haven. Yeah, I saw that story as well, about a Chinese big loss, tech loss. Yeah, I have seen Margin Call. One of the best movies, I think, to see how the system is screwed up still is The Big Short. Uh, yeah, that's another thing we haven't talked much about. All the derivatives out there. That derivatives are just side bets on all the financial instruments that are already leveraged, and it's a cocktail for disaster. Yeah, Farad, gold did break out this week. I think the bottom was put on August 15th, late, well, it's August 16th in Europe, but August 15th in the US at 1160. So yeah, I think where we're gonna go in terms of price is difficult to say, but I think it looks good now. The gold price, but we need to look at gold more as money, as savings. I would look at gold more in terms of how many grams of gold have I got. I think we focus too much on the fiat price of gold. We need to focus more on the purchasing power of gold. Longer term, it will protect you. It might not make you, mega rich, but it will protect the wealth that you have. I think the next crisis, uh, if you're able to maintain the wealth that you had before the crisis, you will have done really well. That's how I see it. And gold and silver will help you do that, in my opinion. So yeah, it's interesting. I always look at the price as well, but you know, it, yeah, I always look at the price as well because it's interesting, but it's not the be all. Are you okay with fiat backed by gold? Well, that's an oxymoron, because fiat is not backed by gold. Fiat is forced upon the public by legal tender laws. So you cannot have fiat money backed by gold. That's right, Richard. Kathleen says, I sold mortgages. Anyone selling mortgages could see that they were full of fraud. Yeah, the problem with the mortgages is that prior to mortgages being securitized, banks they lent money. They gave someone a mortgage, and that mortgage was paid off to the bank over 30 years. But then when people started securitizing them, the people who sold the mortgage didn't care. They just wanted the fees. And then that was the whole problem because of the securitization, and it's still the same today. Nothing's changed. If anything, they're securitizing a lot more things as well. If demand wages skyrocket, gold will plummet. That is the argument, whether you believe him or not, is irrelevant. Also, if gold has competition from service-backed cryptos, price will suffer. What do you mean by demand wages? I'm not sure what you mean by demand wages. So I guess you are selling all your gold, Illuminati Socrates. So good luck with your paper money or whatever you're going to hold. Minimum wages. I don't see why gold would plummet if minimum wages go up. What's that got to do with the price of gold? I'm not too sure. I mean, wages, some people, the Keynesians argue that rising wages create inflation, but it's the other way around. It's, rising inflation that makes the money worth less, and workers demand higher wages because their money is becoming worth less. People get that wrong too. So if wages are going up, it means there's inflation, and we all know that when there's inflation, the currency loses value. So how can gold go down when the currency loses value? It makes no sense whatsoever. uh, anyway, I won't waste my time with that argument. During recessions, people sell their metals? I don't think people who are on a minimum wage have any metals. So unfortunately for them. Yeah, I agree, Andrew. Minimum wage is a scam. It actually probably keeps people's wages down. Um, it's a price control. It's not a free market. That's right. Yeah, communism ideal. That's right. Uh, Zealot Patriot. Do you think the powers that be are keeping gold and silver suppressed so we gradually become poorer than forced to sell our territories? That's right. They don't want you to get out of their game. Their game is the paper money, the borrowing, and they don't want you to, gold is, fiat money is the money of slaves, silver is the money of gentlemen, and gold is the money of kings. So they don't want you protecting yourself. That's why gold is, they play around with the price, they manipulate, they get spikes, and people say, oh, gold is risky. You hear people on CNBC saying, you know gold is a risky asset, which is totally bogus and ridiculous if you look back. And I'm not saying this just because I'm interested in gold, but you just look back thousands of years, it's maintained its purchasing power throughout, while fiat goes to zero. Kathleen Smith, illegal immigration keeps wages down. It could, but there's a lot of jobs that people won't take. So I disagree with illegal immigration as well, because I immigrated to the UK legally. So I think it's wrong. It's a crime. But it's not the underlying problem with the US economy or the UK economy is not illegal immigration. The underlying problem is the fact that people have been earning for many decades in money that becomes worthless and worthless as time goes by. No, I don't think Jim Sinclair is nuts. I do remember that call, but I don't think he's nuts. Kathleen Smith, Mary, you were so right. Everyone should listen to you. I don't expect that. I mean, I'm not saying I'm always right, but I'm open to criticism. And no, I'm not always right. I yeah, I just don't. Yeah. Anyway, hi, Brajendra Sahi. Nice to see you here. Yeah, Rick H. Not a bad store of value, is it? The silver, but the paper dollar has become worthless. Can government control Bitcoin? It could, through the futures market and the bankers. If the futures market becomes bigger and bigger, that's why I always recommend people not to go into the futures market, because it gives the powers that be ammunition. The futures, in my opinion, even though I worked in that market, is just used to manipulate prices. Yes, I do think the volatility will continue in the markets. We're going to run Russia and China out of Venezuela any day now. All right. Good luck. Uh, Leonardo, if government do a reset gold standard, gold silver ratio could come back to 16 to 1 like before. Possible. It is possible. that's how that was roughly the level where it used to be when you had a bimetallic standard. Yeah, I know the Monroe Doctrine that the I agree. The Monroe Doctrine says that the U.S. should be in charge of the Western Hemisphere, but you know, the U.S. now is in charge of the whole world. So why can't the Russians and the Chinese help out the Venezuelans? I don't see, why America should have a monopoly. Monroe Doctrine. Uh, if the United States left Western Europe, they left all their bases, east, how do you say, west of Hawaii. If the United States was only, in the Western Hemisphere, but not anywhere else, then I would agree with the Monroe Doctrine. But that Monroe Doctrine doesn't mean anything anymore because the U.S. is, yeah, all over the world. And it's disappointing because Donald Trump was going to respect the whole world and was going to rein back, get rid of NATO, bring back the troops from Germany. But it all seems to be going the opposite way. It reminds me of George W. Bush. He said that when he was campaigning the first time, he said he was going to conduct a humble foreign policy. He couldn't have been more less humble than look at all the countries he invaded. So Zealot Patriot. So best we can do is avoid unemployment. We don't have to resort to selling our tangible assets. That's right. I think having an income is the most important thing. Trying to wait for things to go to the moon, as they say, is not the right way. I think the right way is to have a source of income and not have to sell your tangible assets. KVJQXZZ is here. Better late than never. Yeah, why should China and Russia not help Venezuela? Don't forget the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's right. Gladio, yeah, barring a total meltdown of the stock market, I think they will hike 4 more times. So, but if next week we drop another 5,000 points, I think they'll probably change their mind. Okay, Andrew. Andrew found multi token. I'll talk to you later, Andrew. Take care. No, Leonardo. I don't think there is not. The public doesn't have that much gold to be confiscated anymore. In 1933, gold was money in the U.S. That's why they had to confiscate it. Ryan Bennett, I heard on a podcast, 1970 source Saudi deal creation of petrol and how this has created dependency in Saudi prince total in the West. Yeah, I mean, the petrodollar was created to back the dollar because, after 71, the dollar was only a piece of paper. And the deal there is for the U.S. needs to protect Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia sells their oil in dollars. That's the deal. Some people think that might be ending. We'll have to see. It's not as, the deal is probably not as strong as it used to be. I haven't read Anti-Fragile. I have read his other books. I like Nassim Taleb. Yeah. Would you trade in some of your silver for gold? I don't have any gold bullion at the moment. Well, historically, gold is very undervalued. But if you really want some gold, go ahead. But I personally wouldn't do it. But hi, Lord Humongous. Yeah, how's the markets? Well, the Dow finished up around 275 points. So, earlier in the day, it even got back to a negative. But, the rally today I don't think it was too convincing. The market had a tough time most of the day. It was only towards the end that they goosed it up. Let's have a look to see where it's now. The Dow's up 16 points after the Dow futures. Gold is around 1218, so gold held quite well. Nice to see Lord Humongous here. Will Bavarian election cause a Lehman-style shock? Not too sure. Probably not. Illuminati Socrates, if gold bugs want to maintain its value, if gold bugs want gold to maintain its value, you've got to promote its utility. People aren't interested in trinkets. Well, I guess you haven't heard of the Glint card, which you can use, and you can spend gold now anywhere in the world. So gold is money again. If you check Glint Pay, Google Glint Pay, there's your utility, Illuminati Socrates. And I've got one of them. I've spent a little bit of gold, even though I try not to, because gold is a store of value and wealth. Illuminati Socrates. You find a gold coin from 2,000 years ago, it will still buy you things. You find a piece of a dollar bill, you won't, because it's probably disappeared because it's paper. So there you go. It might be worth something as a collector's item. Yeah, Illuminati Socrates must be a Keynesian. He must work for the BIS or the IMF. Illuminati Socrates. What's your opinion? Is your the best forex X rate to trade? I'm not sure what you mean by X rate. Uh, DMCD 808. What is the best company to buy physical gold? I'm not sure where you are. In the UK, I use goldinvestments.co.uk. I've got a promo code, maneco64. You get 0.5% discount. I've been using them for 15 years. Company, it's a family business, but that's in the UK. How much gold is worth when you're hungry? Well, you can exchange it for food. How much is a dollar bill worth when you're hungry? I don't understand that question. Bullion by post is good as well. Gold and also Atkinson's bullion. But with goldinvestments.co.uk, you get a 0.5% discount. All right, I'll take a few more questions, and I got to go now. I've been here for an hour and a half, so I'll do 1, 2, or 3 more questions. Oh, best forex pair to trade. I don't think there's a best one. You just have to find the one that you're most comfortable with. Of course, you should pick one that's fairly liquid. Matt Jackson, can you recommend any of the books? Yeah, I will do another book stream on another day. So I will, but I also like "What Has Government Done to Our Money" by Murray Rothbard. Thank you, everyone. Any of you new to the channel, make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed the live stream, and if you can also check out my videos, which I make every day. Yeah, and also, yeah, if you want to, you know, help the channel, there's in the description, there's links to the maneco64 store. You can donate through Patreon as well, and through PayPal. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and for the discussion. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.